Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Here we go again. Battles of the American Civil War, behind the battles. Back with you with another Union generale.
Bill Stark.
Willie Starke Rosecrans. You've heard his name mentioned more than a few times on our episodes, specifically at the Battle of Chickamauga, where his career basically ends after that, because he did so terrible at that battle.
He did.
He was also go figure, like everybody else, an American inventor, a coal oil company executive. He's a diplomat. He's such a diplomat.
Right.
He's a politician and obviously a U.S. Army officer. His story starts on a quiet little farm near Taylor Run in Kingston Township, Delaware County, Ohio. No reason to have that many names.
Right.
He was the second of 5 sons born to Crandall Rosecrans and Jemima Hopkins. Aunt Jemima? Their first child, Chauncey. What the hell? He sadly died in infancy.
Oh.
Crandall, William's father, had a pretty colorful background himself. He was in the War of 1812 as an adjutant to none other than General William Henry Harrison.
Oh.
He was a future president.
Yeah.
After the war, Crandall shifted gears and ran a tavern, a store, and worked the family farm.
Oh, wow.
One of his heroes was General John Stark, who was a Revolutionary War guy. That's actually where William got his middle name, Stark. You would think, right?
Why do you have to put the E at the end of
I
that?
got a Starky.
Rosecrans family, well, his lineage is pretty interesting. They were descended from Dutch Scandinavian noblemen named Harman Henrik Rosencrans,
Rosencrans.
who came to New Amsterdam way back in 1651 before Columbus sailed the ocean blue. After
It
Columbus
was
sailed the
1592.
ocean.
Pop quiz. What was New Amsterdam?
What was New Amsterdam?
What it turned into?
Greek?
What?
Greek.
What city did New Amsterdam turn into?
Old Amsterdam.
New York City, man. That's what it was first called.
Right, that's right. That's right.
You know why they call Wall Street Wall Street?
Well, they call it Wall
Because
Street.
there was an actual wall right there at one time.
Oh, that's fantastic. Over time,
they-
especially during the American Revolutionary War, the spelling of the family name morphed into what we know today.
Yeah, that's called Americanizing.
Right. On his mommy's side, Jemima had been previously married to Timothy Hopkins, who was related to Stephen Hopkins, the colonial governor of the Rhode Island, and one of the guys who signed the Declaration of Independence.
Oh, look at that.
Never mentions ever.
Growing up, Willie, he didn't have a lot of formal schooling. Do they ever? Instead, he leaned on books, taught himself as much as he could. By the time, what is he, Abraham Lincoln?
Right, everybody. What else you gonna do?
Right. By the time he was 13, he left home to work as a store clerk.
Can't watch the Muppet Babies.
First in Utica and later in Mansfield, Ohio. College, out of reach financially, but didn't stop him.
Right.
He set his sights on something else anyways. The United States Military Academy at West Point.
Ooh, gotta go. Everybody was going to West Point.
Well, that's the only way to go. Here's where it gets interesting, though. To get in, he needed a nomination from a congressman, yeah.
Ooh.
So he went to interview with Representative Alexander Harper. He'd actually been saving his appointment for his own son.
Oh.
But old William impressed him so much that Harper said, "Fuck my son,
Right.
and you're getting in instead, buddy."
Right. Although he did not have a strong academic background, old William, he absolutely thrived at West Point. He was especially good at math, French, drawing, and English grammar.
Look at him.
Well, he was there. He picked-
Drawing. Okay.
Right.
Drawing his pistols, I'm assuming.
Right. While he was there, he picked up the nickname Rosie, or more commonly, Old Rosie.
Old Rosie.
Graduated in 1842, ranking 5th of 56. And it was no ordinary class either, because his peers included, you guessed it, Civil War generals James Longstreet,
Well,
Abner Doubleday,
Oh.
D.H. Hill,
Oh.
Earl Van Dorn.
all Confederates. For real.
Right?
Well, thanks to his top academic performance, he was commissioned as a brevet second lieutenant in the United States Army Corps of Engineers,
Damn.
which is one of the most prestigious branches at the time. Yeah,
Right,
he
it
wanted to
was.
be an engineer, man. Right around graduation, he met Anna Elizabeth. Some sources say her name was Eliza Hedgeman.
Okay.
Anywho, she's from New York City. It was love at first sight. They got married August 24th, 1843, and remained until her death on Christmas Day, 1883.
Oh, wow. You don't get to see that very often.
Over those 4 decades, they raised 8 children together.
Well, none of them died.
Apparently not.
Look at that shit. Good for him. Graduating West Point, Rosecrans. He was sent to Fort Monroe, Virginia. He got right to work as an engineer, building seawalls, a crucial part of coastal defense at that very time. But about a year, he requested a transfer back to West Point. He's like, this shit sucks.
He's like, I want to go teach.
This time he returned, not as a cadet, as a professor.
Why would he return as a cadet?
Right.
He already graduated the damn place.
He taught engineering and also handled duties such as post-commissary and quartermaster.
Awesome. There's something really interesting, apparently. Despite West Point being a stronghold of Episcopal Protestantism? Well, at this time, during this assignment, Rosecrans made a deeply personal and life-changing decision. He converted to Catholicism in 1845.
Good for him.
He shared the news with his family, who had raised him in the Methodist tradition.
Oh, shit.
And that letter home ended up inspiring his youngest brother, old Sly Horton Rosecrans, Sylvester. He converted over to Catholicism as well. And old Sylvester, he just didn't convert. He went on to become the very first bishop of the Roman Catholic Diocese of Columbus.
Oh.
You, Rosecrans.
Wow.
And never had a woman.
Yep.
Unless he did before he... I don't think you can become one of those guys if you banged, can you?
Just young boys.
Right.
In fact, both of their parents would eventually convert to be a Catholic on their deathbeds. It's like, I'll never do it. Yeah, all right.
It's not going to hurt me now.
According to William B. Kurtz, a historian from the University of Virginia, Rosecrans, he was not the kind of man to leave matters of faith solely to his wife, as many did at that time. No. He took an active central role in his family's religious life. Now, okay, cool. Now, while most Rosecrans classmates from West Point were off fighting in the Mexican-American War, he's like, I'm going to stay behind.
Oh, well.
The War Department chose him to keep him at West Point.
He was like, yeah, man, we're getting into all these wars. We need somebody to train some engineers.
Right. From 1847 to 1853, he took on a series of engineering assignments in places like Newport, Rhode Island, New Bedford, Massachusetts, and he even did temporary work with the United States Navy at the Washington Navy Yard.
Awesome. During that time, his family was growing. He now had 4 kids. Rosecrans began exploring civilian jobs to better support them.
Oh.
Says a lot if you're working for the freaking Army and you're not getting paid enough. In 1851, he even applied for a professorship at the Virginia Military Institute, where old Robert E. Lee ended up teaching for a minute. He didn't get it, though. And that position went to another West Pointer you might have heard of, Thomas Stonewall Jackson, instead. Wow, that's right.
Good for him.
While stationed in Newport, Rosecrans volunteered his time as the engineer for the construction of the St. Mary's Roman Catholic Church, which is the church that would go on to be famous as the site of JFK and Jacqueline Bouvier's wedding in 1953.
Mrs. Bouvier.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. Well, back in Rosecrans' day, it was one of the largest churches being built in the country. And to this day, there's a memorial window inside honoring him.
Aw, good for that.
Cool.
That's awesome. But his life wasn't all smooth sailing as we like to pretend it is. Rosecrans' health began to decline in 1854 at the young age of 35. That's insane. He made the tough call to resign from the Army.
Those times it's like
Right.
60-something.
He made the tough call to resign from the Army and transition fully into civilian life. He moved into business, specifically mining, and headed out to Western Virginia, which is today's West Virginia. Makes sense. There he found major success. He designed and installed one of the first complete lock and dam systems on the Coal River.
Nice. Keep that water out so we can mine, baby.
Damn right. That project is now known as the Coal River Locks, Dams and Log Booms Archaeological District.
Yep.
Cool.
He didn't stop there, though. In Cincinnati, he teamed up with 2 partners, built one of the first oil refineries west of the Allegheny Mountains. He was an innovator through and through. He held patents for a number of inventions, including the first kerosene lamp to effectively burn a round wick instead of those flat ones, baby.
Right.
And an improved process for making soap. All right, buddy.
Gotta have that.
He's like, I'm tired of this shit
Right.
flaking off.
Fucking insane. But 1859, while he was serving as the president of the Preston Coal Oil Company, disaster struck.
Oh.
He was badly burned when an experimental safety oil lamp exploded. It set the whole refinery ablaze.
Oh, nice.
Injuries was very severe. Took him 18 months to fully recover. And back then, he should have died. Trying to keep his wounds clean and shit.
Right.
Dude, fuck. The burns left scars on his face. He later grew out his beard so you couldn't see it. But you can see some of it. those lingering scars gave him kind of a permanent smirk on his face.
What is it, like a Glasgow smile?
No, it's he created the first Joker.
Yeah, that's the Glasgow smile.
Right. Despite all that,
Right.
Despite all that, he bounced right back. He said, "I'm not going to let these scars ruin my life." He recovered from his injuries and was focused on getting the company back on its feet when history came a-knocking once again. The Civil War was about to begin.
Just days after Fort Sumter surrendered and the war officially kicked off, Rosecrans offered his services to the Ohio governor, William Dennison Jr. Oh, Willie, the governor, he didn't waste any time. He brought the other Willie on as a volunteer aide de camp to Major General George McClellan. Ooh. At that point, McClellan was in command of all Ohio volunteer forces.
Yeah, poor guy.
It didn't take him long for him to rise through the ranks. He was promoted to colonel and briefly took command of the 23rd Ohio Infantry Regiment.
Oh, shit.
Which included two men who'd go on to become presidents of the United States. Rutherford B. Hayes and William McKinley.
Look at that shit.
Look at that.
Fuck yeah. May 16th, 1861, Rosecrans promoted again, this time to Brigadier General in the regular army.
Regular army, he's getting paid now.
Wow. Now, when it came to a battlefield strategy, Rosecrans, he had a real talent for planning and execution. It showed during the Western Virginia campaign. His victories at Rich Mountain, Cork's Ford, July of 1861, they were among the very first Union wins of the entire war, because they were getting their ass kicked at first. But unfortunately, the credit for those early successes didn't even go to old Willie. Instead, they went to a superior, Major General McClellan.
He was the guy in charge.
Yep.
And still, he kept pushing forward with what he later described as much maneuvering but little fighting. He successfully prevented Confederate Brigadier General John Floyd and even his superior Robert E. Lee from retaking the region that would eventually become West Virginia. After the Union's defeat at the First Battle of Bull Run, McClellan, who was called to Washington to take command of the Army of the Potomac, that opened up the opportunity for old Rosecrans, because General-in-Chief Winfield Scott, he recommended that McClellan hand over the Western Virginia command to him.
You take it. McClellan was like, all right. Rosecrans officially took command of what would soon be called the Department of Western Virginia. Late 1861, Rosecrans started working on a bold winter campaign. His plan, you ask? Well, he wanted to capture the strategic town of Winchester, Virginia, and turn the Confederate flank at Manassas. He even traveled to Washington personally to get McClellan's approval. But McClellan said no. Mm-hmm. He argued that if Rosecrans moved 20,000 Union troops into Winchester, the Confederates would simply match that move with 20,000 of their own, and they already have 250,000 there.
All right. Don't you see? We're going up against 1.5 million people. And to make matters worse, McClellan, he transferred 20,000 of Rosecrans' 22,000 troops to Brigadier General Frederick Lander.
What the fuck?
Left him with 2,000 men. Jeez. He left him with too few men to actually launch any kind of campaign.
Wow.
By March of 1862, things shifted again. Rosecrans' department was reorganized into what we now call, into what was now called the Mountain Department, and was handed over to a political general, John Fremont. Yeah, dude didn't even have any experience.
Yeah, we know about that guy.
Well, that left Rosecrans without a command.
Wow. For a brief period, he worked out of Washington. But even there, things didn't go smoothly. He clashed with the newly appointed Secretary of War, Edward Stanton.
Edwin.
The two disagreed on tactics on how the Union command should be structured, especially when it came to dealing with the old rebel general, Stonewall Jackson in the Shenandoah Valley. Stanton, for his part, became one of Rosecrans' loudest critics. Piece of shit.
At one point, Stanton even assigned Rosecrans to act as a guide for Brigadier General Lewis Blinker's division, which is part of Fremont's Mountain Department.
That's low. Wow. That's low.
That role pulled Rosecrans deeper into a chaotic mess of political wrangling and confusion within the Union command. He ended up right in the thick of it during the campaign against Jackson in the Valley, a campaign that, if we're being honest, was tangled with a web of bad communication and mixed loyalties. Yeah, they got destroyed in that.
Man, if Stonewall wouldn't have got killed, what would we be? May 1862, Rosecrans had been assigned to the Western Theater of the War. That move came with a big promotion. He was put in charge of two divisions, known as the Right Wing, within Major General John Pope's Army of the Mississippi. That's cool. Not one to sit back and take it easy, old Rosecrans jumps right into action. He played an active role in the siege of Corinth, which is in Mississippi, a key railroad hub that was critical to the Union strategy. At that very time, the overall command of the siege was, you guessed it, Major General Henry Halleck. We heard about that guy before.
Well, we haven't even done an episode on him yet. But then, June 26, Rosecrans' responsibilities increased dramatically. He was given command of the entire Army of the Mississippi.
Damn.
And by July, he took on even more. He was placed in charge of the District of Corinth as well. Now, even with these titles and all that responsibility, he wasn't operating completely independently. He still reported to a higher-up, clearly, who was Major General Ulysses Grant. That's Grant. Grant commanded both the District of the Western Tennessee and Army of Tennessee right now. So any major strategic direction, especially during the Iuka Corinth campaign that followed in September and October, obviously came from Grant, you would think.
Right.
In that campaign, Rosecrans was on the front lines once again, leading troops and executing orders under Grant's overall leadership. Yes, we know Grant was in overall leadership. Jeez, how much more fucking recognition does this guy need?
Oh, yeah, this guy was another frontline general, huh? I like that. At this point in the war, Confederate Major General Sterling Price had been given marching orders by General Braxton Bragg. The plan, you ask? He simply wanted to move Price's army from Tupelo up toward Nashville, Tennessee. Tupelo?
Sure.
He wanted to do that to coordinate with Bragg's larger Kentucky offensive. But instead of pushing forward immediately, Price's forces stopped in the town of Iuka, Mississippi, where they waited for Major General Earl Van Dorn and his Army of West Tennessee to arrive. The idea was to combine the forces and then launch an attack on General Grant, his lines of communication in Western Tennessee. Oh, did they do it?
Which, that move was designed to box Grant in, and if Grant reacted aggressively, the Confederates hoped to tie down his forces and on a railroad track and prevent him from sending reinforcements to Union General Don Carlos Buell.
Oh.
On the other hand, if Grant played it safe, Price and Van Dorn, they could just potentially follow Bragg and support his campaign into the north. So either way, they had options. We got some options. And a pretty clever plan in place as well. So they can do some things either way.
But as we all know, General Grant, he wasn't about sitting around and waiting. He greenlit a plan that Rosecrans had come up with. Hit Price before Van Dorn could show up. The plan called for a classic pincer movement. 2 Union columns converging on Iuka from different directions to trap Price. Here's how it broke down. Grant, he sent Brigadier General Edward Ord, 8,000 men, 3 divisions of the Army of Tennessee, along with the Memphis and Charleston Railroad. He said, take that railroad with you.
Fold those planks. That's hilarious.
Oh, shit. Along the Memphis and Charleston Railroad.
Their approach was from the northwest. But meanwhile, Rosecrans would bring up his forces along the Mobile and Ohio Railroad, swinging in from the southwest. The idea was that Rosecrans' column would cut off Pierce's escape route. Grant, he stayed with Ord's column, meaning he had minimal tactical control over Rosecrans once things got moving. Rosecrans said, I'll take it from here.
Got it. Night of 18th of September, 1861.
2.
Ord's troops were right on schedule, closing in Iuka. But Rosecrans, he hit some step backs. Some step back threes.
Like it was draining him.
But Rosecrans, he had some setbacks. His troops had a longer distance to cover. And the roads, they were a muddy mess.
Oh, muddy mess.
To make matters even worse, one of his divisions took a wrong turn. I had to double back, burning precious time. Damn, that very night, Rosecrans sent word to Grant. Still about 20 miles out. Would be marching again at 4:30 the next morning and expected to reach Iuka by mid-afternoon on the 19th of September.
Well, with that delay in mind, Grant told Ord to get within about 4 miles of the town, but not to engage until he heard the sound of battle between Rosecrans and Price. In theory, this would ensure the 2 Union forces would strike simultaneously, catching Price in that trap that they wanted him in.
Right.
Early September 19th, Rosecrans got moving as promised, but he made a key change to the plan. Instead of splitting his forces and advancing on 2 roads as originally discussed, he put his entire army on just 1 road.
Ooh.
Why? He was worried if the Confederates launched a surprise attack, a divided force wouldn't be able to support itself effectively.
That's true.
It was a cautious move, but one that would soon have serious consequences.
Uh-oh. By the afternoon of 19th September, Rosecrans, he was just a couple miles away from Iuka. His forces were pushing back Confederate pickets when suddenly, bam!
Oh.
A full Confederate division slammed to his lead elements. The fighting that followed was intense. In fact, Sterling Price himself later said he'd never seen fighting surpassed.
Wow.
Wow.
Man, this guy was in some battles.
The brutal engagement raged on from about 4:30 p.m. and continued well into the night.
Now, here's where things take a strange and critical turn. While all the chaos was erupting, a fresh wind from the north was a-blowing, straight from the direction of General Ord's position towards Iuka. The wind created what's known as an acoustic shadow. Basically, the sound of the gunfire never reached Ord or Grant.
Oh, no.
So even though they were just a few miles away, they had no idea whatsoever that Rosecrans was getting whipped.
Right, so they're thinking, when's this motherfucker going to start to stand battle? Sir, there's 5,000 dead.
Jeez.
Ord's troops, thousands of them, stood by doing nothing, waiting for a signal that never came. Meanwhile, Rosecrans was locked in a fierce fight, no support. That very night, both Rosecrans and Ord deployed their forces, expecting the battle to resume at first light. But come morning, the old rebels, gone.
Right, fuck this.
Turns out, Price had been planning withdrawal since back on the 18th of September. Rosecrans' attack had only delayed it. It didn't stop it.
Nope. There's the kicker, though. The road the Confederates used to escape was the very same one the Union Army hadn't managed to block.
No, of course not.
Price slipped away and just 5 days later successfully linked up with Van Dorn's army.
Fantastic.
Rosecrans tried to chase him. He sent cavalry and some infantry in pursuit for about 15 miles. But his men were exhausted from the fight and the long march leading up to it. Pursuit fell apart. He had to call it off. Well, what was the outcome, you ask?
Oh, well, Grant, he partially got what he wanted. Price wasn't able to join up with Bragg and support the old rebel army, their push into the Kentucky. But on the flip side, Rosecrans hadn't been able to destroy Price's army or even stop it from joining Van Dorn.
Hey, what are you going to do?
That meant the old rebels were still a serious threat, especially to the critical railroad junction at Corinth.
But beyond the battlefield, something else happened at Iuka that would have long-lasting effects.
What was that?
It marked the beginning of a deep professional rift between Rosecrans and
I
Grant.
knew it.
After the battle, northern newspapers painted Rosecrans as the hero and took some shots at Grant in the process.
Ooh, you know, that pissed off that old drunkard.
Rumors started flying. The rumors flew. Some even claimed that the reason Ord's forces hadn't joined the fight wasn't because of the acoustic shadow, but actually because Grant was drunk and fucked up and incompetent.
Right. Oh, wow. Well, at first, Grant didn't seem to be bothered. His first report of the battle was actually pretty complimentary towards Rosecrans. But after Rosecrans published his own version of the events, Grant's tone shifted.
He's like, no, this is what really happened. I was getting my ass kicked for fucking hours, and these guys never showed up.
Right. His second report was much critical.
More.
Right. And by the time he wrote about it...
Muy critical.
Criticale. And by the time he wrote about it again in his personal memoirs, Grant said this: I was disappointed at the result of the Battle of Iuka, but I had so high an opinion of General Rosecrans that I found no fault at the time. A diplomatic line, sure, but it hints at the beginning of a serious divide between the two men who were supposed to be on the same side.
Were they, though? September 28th, Price, he linked up with Van Dorn, and since Van Dorn was the senior officer, he took command of the newly combined Confederate force. It didn't take long for Union leadership to realize what was happening, or coming next.
Right.
Grant was convinced Corinth was the target. But from the Confederate side, the goal was bold. They hoped to surprise Rosecrans by attacking Corinth from an unexpected direction.
Oh.
The plan was to isolate his forces from any reinforcements and then push into Middle Tennessee. Grant, he saw it coming and sent a warning to Rosecrans, tell him to prepare for an attack. Here's the thing. Rosecrans, he's already pissed at Grant. He said, you're fucking lying, dude.
Right.
And he doesn't buy it.
Because he was not convinced at all that even Van Dorn would actually go after Corinth. He's like, nah. In his mind, it seemed too risky. He believed the old rebels might try something sneakier, maybe target the Mobile and Ohio Railroad instead, hoping to force the Union to abandon the position without even a fight. Well, then came the dreadful day of the 3rd of October. Early that morning, 3 of Rosecrans' divisions moved into old Confederate rifle pits, just north and northwest of the town. 10 a.m., Van Dorn launched his assault. His strategy was classic military maneuvering, a double envelopment. He'd hit Rosecrans' left first, hoping that Rosecrans would react by shifting forces away from his right. That's when Price was supposed to strike the right flank, punch through the Union line, and take the fortifications.
Well, this was supposed to happen, because for a while it would look like the plan was working. About 1:30 p.m., the Confederates broke through a temporary gap in the Union line.
Uh-oh.
Rosecrans' force were pushed back hard.
Uh-oh.
By the end of the day, the entire Union Army, aside from the pickets, they retreated within half a mile of the defensive redoubt surrounding Corinth.
Oh, shit.
So far, the advantage was clearly with the old Rebs, but both sides completely exhausted. The heat that day was brutal, 94 degrees.
Damn.
Water scarce. Soldiers, they're collapsing from the strain.
Because they're wearing fucking full cotton fucking uniforms.
It was a brutal fight in every sense of the word of brutal. However you want to break that word down, that's what that fight was.
Now, there are conflicting accounts about Rosecrans' mindset that evening. His biographer, William Lamers, he says Rosecrans was upbeat. He reportedly told his staff, "We got him where we want him."
Now I'm Vince Each.
And he was what is described as a magnificent humor. But historian But historian Peter Cousins, he paints a different picture. He wasn't even there. The biographer was, right?
I would assume so, yeah.
But a historian says, "I know everything." He paints a different picture. He suggests Rosecrans was tired, overwhelmed, and believed he was outnumbered. Maybe 3-1. Well, every Union general believed they were outnumbered 5-1.
Dude, what kind of historian do you have to be? Well, let's see. It was hot. They fought a war, fought a battle. He was probably tired and overwhelmed. Fuck off, dude.
You cannot be happy.
Right. Civil War historian Stephen Woodworth, he was even more critical. He argues Rosecrans had misjudged the situation from the start, and he hadn't anticipated the Confederate attack at all.
Oh.
Only used half of his available troops and ordered them to defend terrain that just couldn't be defended or held. His orders, Woodworth said, and he wasn't there, they were confusing, unrealistic, and lacked any coordination. Rosecrans himself, he stayed back in Corinth, while his division commanders fought on their own with no central plan.
Really?
Can't do that.
No.
According to Woodworth, the Union soldiers that day didn't win because of Rosecrans. They held on in spite of him.
Oh, all right. Yeah, fuck that guy.
Right.
Then came the second day, which was the 4th of October.
They didn't win it anyways. They got fucking pushed back.
9 a.m., 4th of October, Confederates launched another assault, charging headlong into the heavy Union artillery fire. They stormed Battery Powell and Battery Robinette, where vicious hand-to-hand combat broke out. For a brief moment, they even managed to get inside Corinth, but the old Bluecoats pushed them back. After a federal counterattack recaptured Battery Powell, Van Dorn saw the writing on the wall. He said, "Guess what, boys? We got to go." By 4 p.m., Union reinforcements from Grant under Brigadier General James McPherson arrived from Jackson, but the fight was over. In reality, the Confederate retreat had begun around 1 p.m. Corinth had been held. The battle, done.
Done.
Done, done, done.
According to Rosecrans' biographer, William Lamers, what happened that day was nothing short of dramatic and deeply inspiring.
Okay.
He recounts the story of David Henderson, one of General Thomas Davies' men. Henderson watched Rosecrans ride straight out in front of the Union lines, bullets flying all around him. One even knocked his hat off.
Oh, nice.
With his hair whipping in the wind, Rosecrans shouted to the troops, "Soldiers, stand by your country!"
Oh, shit. Hell yeah. Henderson remembered it vividly. He later said, "He was the only general I ever knew who was closer to the enemy than we were, who fought at the front."
For you. That's how he went over your guys, bud.
Damn right. Keep in mind, Henderson wasn't just any soldier. He went on to become a congressman from Ohio.
So he was just any soldier.
Right. And eventually Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Good for you, bud.
He described Rosecrans as a central, leading, and victorious spirit of the day. According to him, Rosecrans' fearless presence helped rally the line, right as it was on the verge of collapse. The men fought again because, in Henderson's words, brave soldiers, when bravely led, fought again.
Good for you.
Damn right, that was on his tombstone.
But as you would think, there's not only one version of the story.
Yeah.
Historian Peter Cousins, whose book on the battles of Iuka and Corinth is one of the most detailed studies out there,
Okay.
he has a very different take. Rosecrans, he says, was right there in the thick of it, but he argues that his presence wasn't exactly heroic.
Oh, no.
In fact, he says Rosecrans lost control completely.
Oh, shit.
The general's infamous temper took over. According to Cousins, Rosecrans lashed out at his own men, cursing anyone who tried to fall back. And eventually, he even began to lose hope.
Oh, shit.
Of course you're going to curse out your men when they're falling back. Get up there and fucking fight.
And then there's this quote from Rosecrans himself. written with what Cousins calls disingenuous pride. On the second day, I was everywhere on the line of battle. Temple clock of my staff was shot through the breast. My saber tash strap was caught by a bullet, and my gloves were stained with the blood of a staff officer wounded at my side. An alarm.
He choked the shit out of him for not doing what he was supposed to.
An alarm spread that I was killed, but it was soon stopped by my appearance on the field. I would hope so.
That would do it.
It's a ghost!
I can run!
So was he a bold battlefield leader, you ask? Or was he a dramatic figure barely holding it together under pressure? Depends on which historian you ask. I ain't asking no historian. What's clear, though, is that after the battle, Rosecrans faltered, which he did.
Yeah. Grant, he gave him direct orders. Pursue Van Dorn immediately.
Now.
But Rosecrans, he didn't even move until the morning of October 5th.
Holy shit.
He claimed his troops needed rest. Right did.
Right.
And the thick wooded terrain made it too dangerous to march at night.
That's true.
Yeah. But there's a moment here that speaks volumes. 1 p.m., October 4th. The moment when a pursuit might have had the biggest impact. That's in bold.
Right.
Rosecrans wasn't advancing.
No.
Instead, he was riding up and down the Union line, trying to squash a rumor he'd been killed during the fight. I'm still here, guys. At Battery Robinette, he dismounted, removed his hat, said to the soldiers gathered there, I stand in the presence of brave men, and I take my hat off to you. It was a touching moment, but it also meant valuable hours were lost just for him to do that.
Right.
Hours when the Confederate Army was slipping away.
Wow. Damn, after the dust settled at Corinth, Rosecrans once again found himself in the headlines. In a good way this time. The Northern press celebrated him as a hero. His name was back in the spotlight. And with that came a major career move. Because on the 24th of October, he was officially given command of the 14th Corps. Now, this wasn't just a battlefield promotion. It came with command of the entire Department of Cumberland, which meant the 14th Corps would soon be renamed the Army of the Cumberland. It was a big step, a major vote of confidence.
Good for you.
Good for them.
He replaced Major General Don Juan Carlos Buell,
Really?
who had just fought the Battle of Perryville in Kentucky against Confederate General Braxton Bragg. That battle ended without a clear result. Buell, he was under fire, not from enemy troops, but with his own government and military superiors. They said he was being too cautious. We're losing patience with you, Don. So Rosecrans stepped in, and with his new position came a new rank. He was then promoted to Major General of Volunteers,
Oh, look at that.
which gave him seniority over the other major generals who only held regular Army commissions.
Oh, shit.
That promotion was made retroactive to March 21st, 1862, so he could outrank another prominent Union general, George Henry Thomas.
Oh.
Look at that.
Fucking politics, baby.
That's crazy. Like, we're going to report you now, but we're going to date it back 7 months.
Right. Well, Thomas, he had actually been offered Buell's job before Rosecrans. But in a remarkable act of loyalty, he turned it down. He didn't want to replace a friend and a former commander.
Okay, who are you, Burnside?
Right. And what did Grant think about Rosecrans leaving his command? He wasn't exactly heartbroken. In fact, let's just say he didn't mind seeing him go.
He said, get him the hell out of here.
But here's the thing. Once Rosecrans took command of the Army of Cumberland, his reputation with the troops absolutely soared. High fly.
To his men, he was Old Rosie, a nickname he actually got in West Point.
Yes.
But now it had a double meaning. Rosecrans was known for his large red nose, which one observer described as intensified Roman.
Wow.
The look only added to his larger-than-life presence. There was more to him than just battlefield leadership. We know he was a Catholic. He carried a crucifix on his watch chain and kept a rosary in his pocket. He was passionate about his faith, loved diving into deep theological debates with his staff. In fact, he was known to keep him up half the night discussing religious doctrine.
Okay. Good for him.
I guess.
Personality-wise, well, he was full of contrasts. He could snap into fits of bristling anger, but just as quickly shift into a warm, good-natured humor. That emotional range, that intensity, actually made him more relatable to his men. Just like a normal man. They saw him as human, flawed, passionate, and loyal. They loved him, just for those reasons.
Right. Well, Buell, he'd been relieved because he didn't aggressively pursue Confederate General Braxton Bragg after the Battle of Perryville.
It's a common theme with
Every
Union.
single freaking Union general. But the twist is, Rosecrans, he wasn't exactly rushing into battle either. Instead, he stays put in Nashville, focusing on restocking supplies and sharpening the training of his cavalry. Caution seemed to be the name of the game for both generals. All generals, except for unless your name's Grant.
Right. Wow.
Or Sheridan or Sherman. It's
Right.
literally the only three.
This patience, well, some people called it a hesitation. It tested the limits of the Union's leadership. By early December 1862, General-in-Chief Henry Halleck, he officially lost his patience. He said, He fired off a blunt message to Rosecrans. He said, if you remain one more week in Nashville, I cannot prevent your removal.
Fine, I'll stay 6 days.
Ooh, how did Rosecrans respond, you ask? Well, with a steely resolve. He shot back. I'd need no other stimulus to make me do my duty than the knowledge of what it is. Ooh. It's like, listen here, motherfucker, you ain't out here.
Right.
To threats of removal or the like, I must be permitted to say that I am insensible. He's like, whatever, do what you got to do, motherfucker. Basically, he's like, I ain't going anywhere. Your threats don't fucking, you ain't out here in this shit.
What are you going to do?
Right.
So he stayed more than 1 week.
He sure fuck did.
Late December, he finally did move against Bragg's Army of Tennessee, which was camped near Murfreesboro, Tennessee. What followed was the Battle of Stones River, the bloodiest battle of the Civil War, if you go by percentage of casualties of each army.
Right.
Both Rosecrans and Bragg, they planned to attack the other's right flank, but Bragg struck first. Early morning hours, December 31st, Bragg, he launched a surprise attack that pushed the Union forces back into a tight defensive perimeter. As you would imagine, chaos. Rosecrans' response was characteristically intense.
Usually, yeah. Known for his nervous energy in battle, Rosecrans was everywhere. He was rallying his men, issuing direct orders to brigades, regiments, and also companies. He rode back and forth like a crazed man along the front lines, often putting himself in danger. I'm in danger. At one point in time, his uniform was stained with blood from his old buddy and chief of staff, Colonel Julius Gereshech, who had been tragically beheaded, by a cannonball while riding alongside him.
Just manage that. A cannonball comes floating through the air and just
bam.
gone.
What do you think we're going to do, Colonel? Oh, shit.
Oh, my.
Despite the disaster unfolding around him, Rosecrans, he refused to give in.
Well, as historian Whitelaw Reid, he writes, when disaster had enveloped half the army, and from the time to the end, Rosecrans was magnificent, rising superior to the disaster that in a single moment had annihilated his carefully prepared plans. He grasped in his single hands the fortunes of the day.
Oh.
He ended up, he stemmed the tide of the retreat, hurried brigades and divisions to the hottest points of the fight, massed artillery, and infused his troops with his own fearless spirit. Out of what looked like defeat, Rosecrans, he rose from the ashes like a phoenix and forged a path to victory.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy. The army's paused on the 1st of January.
They're all
Everybody's
hungover from death around them.
They all got back surprisingly in time from the town square in New York to watch the ball drop. But the battle wasn't over by a long shot.
Not yet.
On the 2nd of January, Bragg, he attacked again. This time focusing on the strong Union position on Rosecrans' left. The Union soldiers held firm, repelling the assault with heavy Confederate losses. Bragg withdrew his army to
Tullahoma, man.
Yeah, Tullahoma, essentially ceding Middle Tennessee to the Union.
Sure did.
The victory was a huge boost to the Union morale, especially after the devastating loss at Fredericksburg just weeks earlier.
It was devastating.
President Lincoln himself wrote to Rosecrans. He said, "You gave us a hard-earned victory, which had there been a defeat instead, the nation could scarcely have lived over."
A little much there, Lincoln, but
I mean, he's got problems.
right. After taking command, Rosecrans' 14th Corps was soon redesignated to the Army of Cumberland. It was redesignated as the Army of the Cumberland. He held his position at Murfreesboro for nearly 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Carefully resupplying his troops and sharpening their training. Winter and muddy roads made him hesitant to push forward, so he stayed put. But while he took his time, the pressure was mounting from Washington. Lincoln, Secretary of War Stanton, General-in-Chief Halleck, they all sent urgent messages demanding that he resume his campaign against Braxton. He said, "What are you doing, dude?"
Right.
That's the thing, too, man. They had him on their heels so many times, but refused to do anything.
So many. Halleck, he said, "I'm not having this shit anymore. I'm sick of Rosecrans.
No.
Sick of it. Sick of Rosecrans." Oh, wait. No, can't skip.
Lincoln, same thing. Yeah.
Lincoln's letter, it captures the frustration well. It says, "I would not push you to any rashness, but I am very anxious that you do your utmost, short of rashness, to keep Bragg from getting lost to help Johnston against Grant. Rosecrans, he said, you know what? I'm going to push back with a strategic excuse. He argued, if I move against Bragg now, the old rebel general would simply pull his entire army to Mississippi. And that would only make things harder for Grant's Vicksburg campaign. So, in Rosecrans' view, by staying put, he was actually helping Grant by keeping Bragg occupied, which is actually true because we all know what happened at Vicksburg.
Well, Halleck, he wasn't having it. He threatened to relieve Rosecrans immediately if he didn't start moving. Though, in the end, he only grumbled about the government's expense for all Rosecrans telegrams. He's like, dude, you're costing us so much money. Why are you sending us shit? Then, June 2nd, Halleck, he sent a sharp telegram. If Rosecrans wouldn't move, some of his troops would be sent down to go and reinforce Grant.
Uh-oh.
In response, Rosecrans surveyed his corps and division commanders to see who supported his position. 15 out of the 17 senior generals agreed. Advancing right then wouldn't stop Bragg from sending reinforcements, and it wasn't a good idea to do it at all.
Right, and those two
And
ones,
when you got all your guys, the majority of your guys siding with you, what are they going to do?
And those two ones that didn't agree, I would have sent them down to Grant. You ain't up for our cause, bud? Get the fuck out of here. Only one voice dissented. Brigadier General James A. Garfield,
Oh, you guys know who that is.
Rosecrans' new chief of staff.
Oh, what a great chief of staff you picked there, Rosecrans.
Garfield said, Rosecrans, I recommend that we do an immediate advance. But also historian Stephen Woodward, he suggests that Garfield might have been more concerned about his recommendation, how it would look back in Washington than the military realities on the ground.
Of course.
16th of June, Halleck sent a blunt ultimatum. Is it your intention to make an immediate movement forward? Question mark. A definite answer, yes or no, is required. Will you be my girlfriend?
Right. Check yes or no.
Will you advance on Bragg?
Will you advance or will you stay put?
Right.
Let me know. 'Cause if you do. Well, Rosecrans, he replies, if immediate means tonight or tomorrow, no. If it means as soon as all things are ready, say 5 days, yes. What a dick.
Wow.
And on the morning of June 24th, after careful preparation, Rosecrans, he finally did begin his move against Bragg.
All right.
What followed was the Tullahoma campaign, running from June 22nd to July 3rd, 1863. A campaign many historians hail as a brilliant example of flawless maneuvering with very low casualties. Rosecrans, he forced Bragg to retreat from Middle Tennessee, pushing him back to Chattanooga.
Ooh-wee.
He sure did.
President Lincoln, he praised the campaign.
Look at them, dude. They don't know what they want.
Oh, he said, the flanking of Bragg at Shelbyville, Tullahoma, and Chattanooga is the most splendid piece of strategy I know of.
Wow.
And then you had David Stanley. He was the commander of the Union Cavalry Corps. He called it a model campaign when he said, if any student of the military art desires to make a study of a model campaign, let him take his maps and General Rosecrans' orders for the daily movements of his campaign. No better example of successful strategy was carried out during the war than in the Tullahoma campaign.
Awesome.
Oh, damn. Even Sherman's March to the Sea?
Burning people alive.
Wow. Right.
Well, during that campaign, Rosecrans' troops entered Shelbyville, rescued a captured Union spy, Pauline Cushman.
Oh, shit.
Cushman had been scouting Bragg's movements when she was caught and sentenced to be hanged. The rescue happened just 3 days before her execution. Nice. Later, Rosecrans and Cushman, they would fuck.
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
Well, they'd work together to raise over $1 million for soldiers' aid at the 1863 Cincinnati Sanitary Fair. All right, look at you.
Good for them. On the flip side,
Come on, buds.
Rosecrans had authorized the court-martial and execution of two Confederate officers,
Oh.
Lawrence Orton Williams and Walter Peters. They disguised themselves as Union officers. They were hung on 9th of June, 1863.
It's not the correct vernacular, bud.
Right.
Hanged.
Yep, and that happened in Franklin, Tennessee. Their bodies still hang today.
Yep.
But despite all this success, Rosecrans' campaign didn't even get the public glory it might have. This is probably because it ended on the very same day that General Robert E. Lee launched the infamous picket charge at Gettysburg.
Ooh.
That didn't do much. And that next day, Grant's siege of Vicksburg ended in surrender.
Sure did. Secretary Stanton fired off a telegram to Rosecrans that laid it on thick. Lee's army overthrown. Grant victorious. You and your noble army now have a chance to give the finishing blow to the rebellion. Will you neglect the chance?
Oh.
Jeez, come on, Stanton.
Wow.
Everything I've heard about this guy is just a piece of shit. I can't wait till we get to you.
Right.
Rosecrans obviously didn't take that well. He shot back. Just received your cheering telegram announcing the fall of Vicksburg and confirming the defeat of Lee. You do not appear to observe the fact that this noble army has driven the rebels from Middle Tennessee. I beg in behalf of this army that the War Department they may not overlook so great an event because it is not written in letters of blood.
Oh.
Right. I mean,
right. Good for him, man. Standing on your shit.
All because it's not freaking front page of the New York Times or whoever the fuck's doing stupid shit back then.
Right. So after the Tullahoma campaign, Rosecrans, he didn't immediately chase down Bragg again. And he didn't deliver the finishing blow to the rebellion that Secretary Stanton had urged him to do. Instead, he said, you know what? We're just going to take our time. We're going to regroup and carefully study the logistics of pursuing Bragg into the rugged, mountainous terrain west and south of Chattanooga. Like, again, motherfuckers, you ain't here.
When he finally decided to move, Rosecrans maneuvered skillfully once again, forcing Bragg to abandon Chattanooga and retreat into the mountains of northwestern Georgia. But it gets a little tricky after this, because Rosecrans, assuming Bragg would keep falling back, he pursued with his army split across 3 separate routes, leaving his corps commanders dangerously far apart from one another. Wow.
Wow. This is a risky move that nearly cost him dearly. At the Battle of Davis's Crossroads on the 11th of September, Bragg almost ambushed and destroyed one of those isolated Union corps that we talked about. Realizing the danger, Rosecrans issued urgent orders to bring his army back together.
He said, y'all come back now, you hear?
And soon, the two forces faced off across the West Chickamauga Creek.
Chickamauga River Creek.
The Battle of Chickamauga had begun September 19th.
Poor Rosecrans.
With Bragg attacking the still not fully concentrated Union army. At first, the old rebels couldn't break through. But the real disaster struck on day 2.
It all came down to a badly worded order Rosecrans sent to Brigadier General Thomas Wood. That order told Wood to close up and support General Joseph Reynolds' division, intended to fill what they thought was a gap in the Union line. Instead, Wood's movement opened a large new gap. Perfect target for the old Rebs.
Sure now was.
And it just so happened that Lieutenant General James Longstreet is licking his chops, and he was planning a massive assault right there.
Damn right he was.
Damn.
Holy shit. The old Rebs exploited this gap ruthlessly. They smashed through Rosecrans' right flank. Most of the blue coats on that side fell back in confusion toward Chattanooga. Rosecrans himself, along with the Chief of Staff Garfield, and also 2 other corps commanders. They tried to rally retreating troops, but soon they too were caught up in the retreat. Rosecrans decided to rush ahead to Chattanooga to organize defenses and regroup the shattered forces. Damn.
And that's when he sent Garfield to General George Thomas with orders to take command of the remaining troops at Chickamauga and conduct an orderly withdrawal.
Okay.
This is where the story starts to take a turn over here, because the
shit.
Union Army, they avoided total disaster thanks to the heroic stand Thomas made at Horseshoe Ridge. His defense was so fierce and effective that Thomas earned the nickname the Rock of Chickamauga.
Look at that shit. Nice. That very night.
He's a Rockamaga.
Right. That very night, the Union forces withdrew to fortify positions in Chattanooga. Bragg, he failed in his goal of destroying the Army of Cumberland. But the battle still marked the worst Union defeat in the Western Theater.
Yeah.
That was bad. Thomas urged Rosecrans to return to the front and lead the army. But Rosecrans, both physically exhausted and shaken in spirit, stayed back in Chattanooga. President Lincoln tried to bolster his morale, sending a telegram saying, "Be of good cheer. We have unabated confidence in you." Now you do. And your soldiers and officers as well. You must be the judge as to what is to be done.
Oh, yeah, okay, guy.
If I was to,
But here, I'll tell you something, though.
right, if I was to suggest, I would say save your army by taking strong positions until Burnside joins
Well, see,
you.
look at it. Sensible now.
Oh, wow, they finally see.
But on the other hand, behind the scenes, Lincoln, he confided to his secretary, John Hay, that Rosecrans seemed, quote-unquote, confused and stunned like a duck hit on the head.
Oh.
Whether Rosecrans knew Thomas was still holding the field or not, historians agree it was a major blunder that he didn't personally ride out to Thomas's position.
Right.
Had he done so, like he did at Stones River, and shown himself to his men, his leadership might have turned disaster into a hard-won victory and got his men in good spirit. But instead, he headed straight to Chattanooga. This is the perfect. See, you can't give these guys a chance to get rid of you because that's what they're looking to do, Rosecrans.
Easily, although the old blue coats were safe behind strong defensive lines, their supply routes were dangerously thin and vulnerable to Confederate raids. Meanwhile, Bragg's forces held the high ground around Chattanooga and laid siege to that very city. Demoralized and defeated, Rosecrans couldn't break the siege on his own. Within hours of the Chickamauga defeat, Secretary Stanton ordered Major General Joseph Hooker. He said, bring your 15,000 men from the Army of Potomac. Take those boys out of Virginia and head down to Chattanooga, or west of Chattanooga.
Yeah, well, at the same time, Grant, he was commanded to send 20,000 men under William Sherman from Vicksburg. September 29th, Stanton went further, ordering Grant to come to Chattanooga himself as commander of the newly created Military Division of the Mississippi.
Oh, shit.
Grant was given the option to replace the shaken Rosecrans with the steadfast Thomas.
Wow.
But he didn't.
Well, despite rocky personal relationships with both generals, Grant, he chose Thomas to lead the Army of the Cumberland. Then, navigating treacherous mountain roads, Grant, he arrived in Chattanooga October 23rd. He later recalled that during his journey, he met Rosecrans at Stevenson, Alabama. Rosecrans shared his clear assessment of the situation and made some excellent suggestions, though Grant wondered why Rosecrans hadn't already acted on them. From there, Grant executed a plan originally devised by Rosecrans and Brigadier General William Baldy Smith, and that was to open the Vital Cracker Line, which was a supply route into Chattanooga. In a series of battles from October 23rd to the 25th, 1863, Grant's forces routed Bragg's army, forcing it to retreat into Georgia and lifting the siege. After the intense battles and campaigns of the Civil War, old Rosecrans was sent to Cincinnati to await further orders, but ultimately he wouldn't play any major role in the fighting again. Instead, from January to December of 1864, he took command of the Department of Missouri. During that time, he was active in opposing Sterling Price's famous Missouri raid. Well, during the 1864 Republican National Convention, Rosecrans' former chief of staff, none other than old James Garfield, who was then heading to the Ohio delegation, he reached out to him with a tantalizing question. Garfield telegraphed Rosecrans to ask if he would consider running for vice president alongside Abe. That year, the Republicans were aiming to bring a war Democrat onto the ticket, running under the temporary banner of the National Union Party. Rosecrans, he responded with a cryptically positive reply. But in a twist of fate, Garfield never received that return telegram. Oh, what? Friends and historians have speculated that Edwin Stanton, Secretary of War, might have intercepted and suppressed Rosecrans' answer. Wow. Well, moving forward, Rosecrans was mustered out of the U.S. Volunteer Service January 15, 1866. Just a few months later, June 30th, 1866, Andrew Johnson nominated him for appointment as a brevet major general in the regular army, with the rank dating back to March 13, 1865. This was a gesture of gratitude for his leadership and valor at the Battle of Stones River. The U.S. Senate confirmed his appointment July 25th of that same year. He then resigned from the regular army March 28, 1867, but his military career didn't end there. In a unique turn by an act of Congress, February 27, 1889, he was reappointed a brigadier general in the regular army and officially placed on the retired list just a few days later, March 1st. Well, good for him. Got a little severance and retirement pay. After the war, Rosecrans became a member of the District of Columbia Commandery of the Military Order of the Loyal Legion of the United States. Too long. It was a prestigious military society made up of officers who had served in the Union Armed Forces along with their descendants. So while his active battlefield days came to a close, his influence and legacy continued both in military circles and in the broader story of the Civil War and post-war America. After the war, he turned his attention to railroads. He was one of the 11 incorporators of the Southern Pacific Railroad. Unfortunately, despite holding valuable stock interests, those were lost due to unscrupulous financiers among his business partners. Well, from 1868 to 69, he served as U.S. Minister to Mexico. However, it was a brief tenure which just lasted 5 months, cut short after old Ulysses S. Grant became president. He said, "You're out of here." During his service, Rosecrans became convinced that Mexico could benefit from a narrow-gauge railroad and telegraph line running from Tampico to the coast. He pursued this venture from 1869 through 1873, but it ultimately failed. Shifting his focus yet again, he grew interest in civil administration and co-authored a book titled Popular Government with former newspaperman Josiah Riley. The book advocated for voter registration and election reforms. Over the years, several political parties approached Rosecrans to run for high office. Governor of Ohio for the Union Party of 1866, Governor of California for the Democratic Party in 1868, Governor of Ohio again for the Democrats in 69, and even as a Democratic candidate for U.S. Representative from Nevada in 1876. Yet he declined every offer, preferring to focus on his business ventures instead. Because of this pattern, he earned the nickname the Great Decliner. 1869, he purchased a massive 16,000-acre tract of land known as Rancho San Pedro in the Los Angeles Basin for just $2.50 an acre, extremely low price, possibly because the land lacked a water source. The ranch, later called Rosecrans Rancho, it was bordered by what would become Florence Avenue to the north, Redondo Beach Boulevard to the south, Central Avenue to the east, and Arlington Avenue to the west. By the time of his death, his son Carl was living on the estate, although most of the land had been sold off piece by piece to finance Rosecrans' mining ventures. Fast forward to 1880, when he was elected as Democrat to represent California's 1st Congressional District. Well, look at him. That same year, James Garfield, he was elected president as a Republican, distressed by Garfield's campaign literature highlighting his own role in the war while downplaying Rosecrans's. Two former friends became irreparably estranged. Following Garfield's assassination, Charles Dana published letters Garfield had written after Chickamauga to Treasury Secretary Salmon Chase, which many believe contributed to Rosecrans losing political support. Rosecrans, but he was reelected in 1882 and became chairman of the House Military Affairs Committee. In this role, he publicly opposed a pension bill for former President Grant and his wife. Of course he did. Unaware of Grant's family's dire financial situation, Rosecrans accused Grant of falsehoods and condemned the business practices that had financially ruined many. Despite his objections, the bill passed anyways. Years later, when a bill was introduced in 1889 to restore his rank and place him on the retired list, some representatives objected due to his past opposition to Grant, but that bill ultimately passed like we said. Rosecrans then chose not to seek re-election in 1884. Instead, he served as regent of the University of California in 1884 and 5. Though mentioned occasionally as a possible presidential candidate, the first Democratic president elected after the war was Grover Cleveland in 1884. Rumors circulated that Rosecrans might be appointed Secretary of War under Cleveland, but instead he was appointed Register of the Treasury, serving from 85 to 93. Oh, wow. In a gesture of reconciliation, Rosecrans spoke at a grand reunion of Union and Confederate veterans at the Chickamauga battlefield on September 19, 1889. His moving address praised national healing and unity. This event helped prompt Congress to establish the Chickamauga and Chattanooga National Military Park. That happened the following year, which was the nation's very first national battlefield park. Finally, 1896, he was awarded the Laeter Medal by the University of Notre Dame. This prestigious award was the oldest and highest honor given to American Catholics, recognizing his lifelong faith and contributions. February 1898, William Rosecrans caught a cold that developed into pneumonia. At first, it seemed like he was on the road to recovery, but tragedy struck again. He learned that one of his favorite grandchildren, Rosecrans Toole, the son of Lily and Joseph Kemp Toole, Montana's first governor, had died from diphtheria. Overcome with grief, Rosecrans' health quickly declined. March 11, 1898, he passed away at Rancho Salso Redondo in Redondo Beach, California. His casket lay in state in Los Angeles City Hall, draped with the headquarters flag that had flown over the battles of Stones River and Chickamauga, which were the very battles that had defined much of his military career. A decade later, in 1908, Rosecrans' remains were removed and interred with honor at Arlington National Cemetery. In recent years, his reputation has seen something of a revival. Historian Frank Varney made a compelling case for this reappraisal in his book General Grant and the Rewriting of History: How the Destruction of General William Rosecrans Influenced Our Understanding of the Civil War. Rosecrans' legacy is honored in several ways across the country. Fort Rosecrans National Cemetery in San Diego, that bears his name. Los Angeles County, a major east-west thoroughfare, Rosecrans Avenue, that carries his name, clearly. As does Rosecrans Street in San Diego as well. Schools have been named for him, as you would think, including General Rosecrans Elementary in Compton, and another in Sunbury, Ohio, which is his hometown. At the site of his birthplace, a memorial stands, a large boulder encircled by a wrought iron fence, holding a plaque and memoriam beside a rural road named after him as well. In Sunbury, an impressive equestrian statue of Rosecrans sits atop a massive 55,000-pound black granite boulder, and that's in the town square near Town Hall. Rosecrans' headquarters from the lead up to the Chickamauga campaign earned a spot on the National Register of Historic Places in 1978, preserving an important piece of Civil War history. And his name even sailed the old seven seas. The SS Rosecrans was a troop transport ship active in the early 20th century Pacific theater. And another ship, the USAT Rosecrans, built as Liberty's ship Hull 570, it was rated to carry over 500 troops during World War II. There we go. That's old Rosecrans, old William Rosecrans for you. So, yeah, he did good. And then when he didn't, the army just chewed him up, spit him out, and no use for him again. And just like a lot of the other generals in this war, it's political rivals. And once you don't like somebody and the majority are with the guy that don't like you, then you're pretty much done. So, yep, that's William Rosecrans on this episode. We'll be back next week for Civil War general. Maybe we'll do his counterpart for most of this episode and most of his time in the war, old Braxton Bragg. So plenty more to cover on the behind the battles of this American Civil War. So make sure you're liking, subscribing, sharing with your friends, commenting, and all that good stuff. We'll see you next week for more battles of the American Civil War. We are the Mountain Michiganders with Bang Bang.